You've been doing it wrong. Every single season, you're back out there breaking soil, buying seeds, gambling on weather, and praying your harvest covers what you spent just to grow it. You're working like a full-time farmer and getting paid like a part-time gambler. But what if I told you there are 7 crops sitting right now, probably within driving distance of you, that you plant once on just 1 acre of ground, and they literally pay you back every single year for the rest of your life without you ever touching a seed packet again? Not a theory. Not a maybe. Farmers are quietly building generational income with these exact plants while everyone else is stuck replanting corn and crying over feed costs. You're about to find out exactly what they are, where to plant them, how much money they actually make, and the bonus information on each one that almost nobody in this space is talking about. Stay with me, because number 1 on this list is responsible for some of the highest income per acre numbers in all of American agriculture, and most people have never even considered growing it. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. We drop farm income strategies every week, and you do not want to miss what's coming next. The algorithm won't always show you this channel, so subscribe and turn on notifications before we go any further. Let's count it down. Number 7, Comfrey. If you've never heard of Comfrey, that tells you everything about why most small farms are still struggling. This is one of the most underrated, underused, and undervalued plants in the entire permaculture and livestock world. And once you understand what it does, you will never look at a bare corner of your property the same way again. Comfrey is a deep-rooted perennial herb in the borage family. You plant it once, and it comes back year after year with almost zero input from you. The roots go down anywhere from 6 to 10 feet into the subsoil, pulling up minerals like potassium, calcium, phosphorus, and nitrogen that most surface plants can't even reach. It then deposits those minerals into its leaves, which means every time you cut comfrey and lay it on your garden beds or feed it to your livestock, you are delivering a concentrated mineral supplement that would cost you real money at the farm supply store. For USDA hardiness zones, comfrey thrives in zones 3 through 9, which covers the vast majority of the continental United States. It handles cold winters, comes back reliably in spring, and depending on your climate, you can harvest it 4 to 6 times per growing season, starting from a single planting. Here's the income angle that most people skip over. The fresh weight yield of comfrey on 1 acre can range from 20 to 40 tons per year. If you're using it as a livestock feed supplement, you are cutting your purchased feed costs significantly, which is a real dollar value even if no money changes hands. But the real money is in the dried herb and supplement market. Dried comfrey root and leaf sells in bulk on platforms like Mountain Rose Herbs, bulk herb brokers, and direct-to-soap makers, herbalists, and natural skincare formulators for anywhere between $4 and $12 per pound dried, depending on quality and certification. An organic certified comfrey operation on just a portion of 1 acre has been documented generating $5,000 to $15,000 annually in dried product alone. It also acts as a living mulch and pollinator attractor, which means it's doing multiple jobs on your property simultaneously. Bonus. This is the part nobody tells you. Comfrey contains compounds called allantoin, which promotes cell regeneration. It is one of the top ingredients in the growing natural wound care and veterinary product market. Small batch comfrey salve, fines comfrey infused oil, and comfrey tincture have some of the highest retail markups in the herbal product space. 1 pound of dried comfrey root, purchased for $8 wholesale, can be processed into comfrey salve jars that retail between $12 and $18 each. That is a value multiplication that very few raw crops can match. If you're already in the livestock space, comfrey fed to poultry, rabbits, and pigs has been shown in agricultural studies to reduce feed conversion ratios, meaning your animals gain more on less purchased feed. That's passive savings stacking on top of passive income. Number 6, elderberry. The elderberry market in the United States has been experiencing explosive growth, and it is not slowing down. Consumer demand for elderberry syrup, elderberry gummies, elderberry extract, and elderberry supplements has tripled over the last decade, driven by the immune health category in the natural products industry. This is not a trend. This is a permanent shift in how American consumers think about their health, and you are sitting on land that can produce one of the most in-demand botanicals in that market. Sambucus nigra, the American and European elderberry, is a perennial shrub that reaches full production in its second or third year and continues producing reliably for 20 to 30 years with minimal management. You prune it in late winter, you keep it watered through the establishment, and then largely it handles itself. USDA zones 3 through 9, again, make elderberry one of the most accessible perennial crops in North America. It prefers moist, well-drained soil and actually performs well in low-lying areas or near water features where other crops would struggle, which means it can turn marginal wet ground into a profit center. Yield on a well-managed elderberry acre is typically between 3,000 and 8,000 pounds of fresh berries annually at full maturity. Fresh elderberries at the farm gate sell for anywhere between $2 and $4 per pound to local buyers, small-batch syrup producers, and natural food stores. Processed into dried berries, that price climbs to $8 to $15 per pound. If you're selling value-added products like elderberry syrup direct to consumer, a 32-ounce bottle retails between $18 and $30. The math on 1 acre at full production, selling into even a partial value-added channel, starts to look extraordinary. Bonus, here is what almost no one in this niche is discussing. Elderflowers. Before the berries come, elderberry bushes produce large, flat clusters of tiny white flowers, and those flowers have an entirely separate and very lucrative market. Elderflower cordial, elderflower liqueur, elderflower tea, and elderflower extract are premium products in the craft beverage and specialty food market. Fresh elderflowers sell to craft distilleries, specialty food producers, and farmers markets for $15 to $30 per pound. 1 acre of elderberries in full bloom can produce hundreds of pounds of fresh flowers, and harvesting them does not reduce your berry yield if done properly, because not every flower cluster needs to be harvested. You are getting 2 income streams from 1 planting in 1 season. Dried elderflower also retails at $20 to $40 per pound in the bulk herb market. This is money that most elderberry growers leave on the table every single spring. Number 5. Asparagus. Asparagus is the definition of a plant-it-and-forget-it income crop, and the reason more small farms don't grow it is pure impatience. You plant asparagus crowns, you wait 2 seasons while it establishes, and then it pays you back for the next 15 to 25 years from that same root system. 2 years of patience for 2.5 decades of harvest. If that math doesn't make sense to you, check it again. Asparagus thrives in USDA zones 2 through 8, and in colder climates it actually performs better because it needs a hard freeze to break dormancy and produce those thick, premium spears. Lighter winter climates in zones 9 and 10 can grow asparagus but require more management and may see shorter, productive lifespans. 1 acre of mature asparagus at proper planting density of about 3,000 crowns per acre can produce between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds of marketable spears per year. At retail prices of $2.50 to $4 per pound at farmers markets, specialty grocers, and direct farm sales, that is between $7,500 and $20,000 per acre per season from a crop that required almost no input year after year once established. The asparagus season is also perfectly timed. It's one of the first fresh vegetables available in spring, which means when it hits farmers markets in April and May, competition is extremely low and buyer demand is at its absolute peak. Early season scarcity commands premium pricing. Bonus, white asparagus. This is a 5-star restaurant and specialty gourmet market product that is almost entirely imported into the United States from Europe and Peru. White asparagus is simply regular asparagus that is grown under soil mounds or light-blocking mulch, so it never sees sunlight and never develops chlorophyll. The same crown produces it. The same acre grows it. White asparagus retails at $8 to $20 per pound at specialty grocery stores and online gourmet retailers. High-end restaurants pay farm direct prices of $12 to $18 per pound for white asparagus during peak season. This is a premium product from zero additional infrastructure beyond covering your beds. No American grower has saturated this market. It is still wide open. Number 4. Rhubarb. Rhubarb is one of those crops that people associate with grandmother's garden and strawberry pie, and that sentimental image is actually hiding a very serious commercial opportunity. Mature rhubarb crowns are productive for 20 or more years. Once established, they require almost nothing from you beyond dividing the crowns every few years to maintain vigor and controlling weeds during establishment. USDA zones 3 through 8 are the sweet spot for rhubarb. It loves cold winters. The colder your climate, the stronger your rhubarb comes back in spring. Zone 9, growers can still grow it but need to treat crowns as semi-perennial and may need to replant more frequently. Commercial rhubarb yield on 1 acre is between 8,000 and 15,000 pounds of fresh stalks annually. Rhubarb at farmers markets consistently sells for $2 to $4 per pound. Specialty grocery chains and natural food stores pay similar prices. But here is where it gets interesting. Rhubarb is one of the few crops that has genuine scarcity in the wholesale market precisely because commercial production has declined over the last 30 years. Most grocery store rhubarb is imported. Local, farm-fresh rhubarb commands a significant premium from bakeries, jam producers, and specialty food businesses who can't get reliable domestic supply. Bonus: forced rhubarb. This is an 800-year-old British technique that has never been properly adopted in American small farm culture, and it is an absolute money printer. Forcing rhubarb means covering your established crowns in late winter with large buckets, bins, or purpose-built forcing pots to exclude all light. What grows inside is shocking. Pale pink, almost electric-colored stalks that are sweeter, more tender, and visually stunning compared to outdoor rhubarb. Forced rhubarb appears weeks before outdoor rhubarb and commands prices of $8 to $15 per pound at premium farmers markets, specialty retailers, and direct-to-pastry chefs who specifically seek it out. The Yorkshire forcing triangle in England built an entire regional economy around this technique. You can do it on a fraction of an acre with buckets you already own. Almost no one in American small farming is doing this at scale right now. Number 3. Hazelnuts. Now we are moving into the woody, perennial, and tree crop category. And this is where the real long-term generational wealth in farming lives. Hazelnuts deserve far more attention than they get from the small farm and homesteading community, and the reason they don't get it is that most people think nut trees take too long. American hybrid hazelnuts don't. Selected varieties from programs like the Badger Set Research Corporation and the University of Nebraska produce first nuts in 3 to 4 years, reach significant production by year 5 to 7, and then deliver for 50 years or more. Hazelnuts are hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8, making them one of the most cold-tolerant tree crops available. They're multi-stemmed shrubs rather than tall trees, which means they're easier to harvest, more wind-tolerant, and can be planted at higher densities than traditional orchard trees. The hazelnut market in the United States is worth discussing seriously. The U.S. imports approximately 70% of its hazelnuts from Turkey, and that supply chain has been repeatedly disrupted by weather, political instability, and shipping issues. Domestic hazelnut production is dramatically under capacity. Hazelnuts at the wholesale bulk level sell for $2 to $3 per pound shelled. In-shell retail price runs $150 to $250 per pound. Value-added hazelnut products, including roasted hazelnuts, hazelnut butter, hazelnut oil, and hazelnut flour, command much higher prices. Hazelnut oil retails at $30 to $50 per liter at specialty food retailers. 1 acre planted at proper density of 100 to 150 plants can yield between 800 and 2,000 pounds of dry nuts by full production. But you can intercrop the spaces between young hazelnut shrubs with annual vegetables, herbs, or small fruits for the first several years, meaning your acre is generating income the entire time the hazelnuts are maturing. Bonus: hazelnuts and livestock are a combination almost nobody is exploring commercially. Hazelnut leaves and small branches are excellent browse material for goats and sheep. The spent shells after processing are a carbon-rich bedding material and biochar precursor. But the real bonus is the wildlife and hunting lease angle. Hazelnuts are one of the top 5 preferred foods for white-tailed deer, wild turkey, and many game bird species. A hazelnut planting on the edge of a larger farm property increases wildlife density substantially, and hunting lease income in many parts of the country runs $2 to $10 per acre per year just for access rights. You're growing nuts for sale, feeding your livestock, and potentially getting paid by hunters without doing anything extra. Number 2, blueberries. Blueberries are the highest-grossing small fruit crop in American agriculture by total market value, and the consumer demand for fresh, local, chemical-free blueberries consistently outpaces domestic supply in nearly every regional market in the country. That supply gap is your opportunity. High-bush blueberries are the commercial standard and thrive in USDA zones 4 through 7. Southern high-bush varieties extend that range down through zones 8 and 9. Low-bush blueberries cover zones 3 through 6 and are the basis for the wild blueberry industry in Maine and Canada. Half-high hybrids bridge zones 3 through 5 with outstanding cold hardiness. Blueberries require an acidic soil pH between 4 and 5, which is non-negotiable. If your soil isn't in that range, you either amend it or you raise beds. This is the one barrier to entry that keeps competition lower than it should be, because many growers don't want to manage soil pH. That same barrier is what keeps prices strong. Blueberry plants take 3 to 4 years to reach meaningful production and 6 to 8 years to hit full yield potential. But they produce for 40 to 50 years minimum. 1 acre of mature high-bush blueberries at commercial density of roughly 900 plants can yield 10,000 to 14,000 pounds of fruit annually. You-pick operations charge $2 to $4 per pound, and the customer does all the harvest labor for you. Retail farm stand and farmers market prices run $3 to $6 per pound for fresh berries. Wholesale prices to grocery stores and co-ops average around $2 per pound, and at those volumes, the math still works strongly in your favor. Bonus: agritourism is where blueberry farms generate income that dwarfs the fruit itself on a per-hour basis. You pick blueberry operations that layer in an experience, a farm store, homemade blueberry jam, blueberry baked goods, and photo-worthy farm aesthetics can generate $30,000 to $60,000 per season from a single acre, with a fraction of the labor cost of conventional harvesting. The experience economy is real, and blueberries are one of the most accessible entry points into agritourism for small farms. Because picking blueberries is genuinely enjoyable for families and children. You're not asking someone to do difficult work, you're selling them a memory. Corporate farms cannot replicate that, only you can. And now, number 1, the crop that generates more income per square foot than almost anything else you can legally grow in the United States of America. Number 1, saffron. Stop. Before you scroll away thinking saffron is exotic or complicated, you need to hear this out because what I'm about to tell you might be the most important farming information you encounter this year. Saffron is the dried stigma of the Crocus sativus flower. It is the most expensive spice in the world by weight, selling retail between $500 and $5,000 per pound depending on grade and origin. The reason it's expensive has nothing to do with scarcity of growing conditions and everything to do with the fact that it has traditionally been grown in regions with very low labor costs, because the harvest requires hand-picking tiny stigmas from individual flowers. But here is what the mainstream farming media is not telling you. When the economics flip and you are growing a small acreage in the U.S., where your per-pound sale price is dramatically higher than what Iranian or Spanish exporters receive in the bulk market, the labor equation changes entirely in your favor. Crocus sativus is hardy in USDA zones 6 through 9 in the ground and can be grown in zones 3 through 5 with overwintering mulch or container production moved indoors. It blooms in fall, which means it occupies your fields in October and November, when almost nothing else is producing, and your farm income typically goes quiet. Here's the math that stops people cold. 1 acre of saffron planted at a commercial density of 400,000 corms can produce between 4 and 8 pounds of dried saffron per year at full production, which typically arrives in year 2 and then continues for 6 to 10 years before corms need dividing. American-grown saffron, marketed as domestic and non-GMO to specialty food retailers, chefs, spice companies, and direct online customers, commands between $1,500 and $5,000 per pound. Do that math on 4 to 8 pounds per acre. You are looking at potential gross revenue of $6,000 to $40,000 per acre annually from a crop that blooms in fall, requires no irrigation infrastructure once established, and produces on the same corms for nearly a decade. There is no livestock feed input here. No grain costs, no veterinary bills, just corms in the ground producing one of the most valuable agricultural products on earth. Bonus. And this is the bonus that nobody in the U.S. farming content space is talking about because most of them simply don't know it. Saffron corms multiply underground. Every corm you plant produces between 3 and 10 daughter corms per year. That means after your first year, you have more corms than you started with. After year 3, you have enough corms to either expand your planting, which multiplies your production at 0 additional cost, or sell the excess corms to other growers at prices between $1 and $3 per corm, depending on size. Corm sales can generate thousands of dollars annually as a completely separate revenue stream running parallel to your spice income. You are literally getting paid to grow your own planting stock. The corms pay for themselves, then they pay you for the saffron, and then they multiply and pay you again for the next generation of corms. There is no other crop in this countdown that has this kind of self-compounding financial structure built into its biology. Here's the reality of what you just heard. 7 crops, 1 acre. Comfrey building your soil fertility and generating herbal income while feeding your animals. Elderberry producing 2 separate harvests in one season with flowers and berries that tap into one of the fastest growing consumer health markets in the country. Asparagus delivering premium spring harvests for 2 decades from a single planting with white asparagus sitting as an almost completely untapped American market. Rhubarb using a centuries-old forcing technique that almost no American grower is using, and yet produces product that high-end pastry chefs will pay extraordinary prices for. Hazelnuts, replacing a 70% import dependency in a market that is actively seeking domestic supply while simultaneously feeding your livestock and attracting wildlife. Blueberries anchoring an agritourism model that converts a fruit crop into an experience business that scales far beyond what the berries alone could ever earn. And saffron sitting at the top of every income-per-acre calculation in American specialty agriculture, blooming when nothing else is, paying you in the world's most expensive spice and multiplying its own planting stock every single year, underground. You don't need more acreage, you need better plants. And now you know which ones to put in the ground. If this video gave you one idea that changes how you think about your farm or your land, subscribe right now, because we have more where this came from. We're talking cash crops, livestock income systems, and farm strategies that the agricultural mainstream does not cover. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you in the next one.